All right, let's start off today taking a look at the next assignment because after today I think you're going to be ready for it, so I want to point you at it and get you ready. I have changed the database design assignment to two parts. This used to be 1 and 2 embedded in one document. I've split it up into two documents. Here's part 1. What I have done is taken the contents of those databases in your book and I have redesigned them. The author, for reasons that are his own that I think I understand but don't necessarily agree with, decided not to use an awful lot of auto number fields. Real world though, please, thank you. Real world, you're going to get more auto number fields. So I have taken that Premier Products database and I've also done Henry Books and Alexamara Marina, which were chapter 1 in that book that I asked you to take a look at. And I've redesigned them to some extent. So there's a customers table and they're all plural, notice, instead of singular. There's an orders table, there's a parts table, there's a reps table, and I realized that if we're doing third normal form, there needs to be a warehouses table, so I added one. You're welcome. I didn't know that was so aggravating to you, but I'm glad you like it. So if your assignment is to take these 5 tables or 6 and still reverse engineer them. Draw the ERD for those tables. You don't have to guess what the tables are. Those are the tables. There are no many-to-many relations. Those are the tables. I think a valuable skill is to be able to take an existing database and reverse engineer, draw an entity relationship diagram and show who's related to who. How do you know? Well, that's part of the challenge here, isn't it? Shouldn't be too difficult. Find out what they have in common. That's what links them. Designate the primary keys, designate the linking fields. Definitely going to be different than this year than it was last year when I had them do exactly what was in the book. So there's your first assignment. Thou shalt also create a data dictionary for this. We've already started with data dictionaries. I hope to get pretty well through the data dictionaries. In your data dictionaries, you'll designate field names. I've already given those to you. Again, we're reverse engineering. Field types, primary key designations, linking field designations. I showed you how to do those in the data dictionary. We'll review it today. Logical key designations, we haven't done that yet. We'll save that for last. Lookups, default values, any other validation that we can throw in there. In this case, it's not so much reverse engineering as it is if it was you planning for the program that's going to be the front end of this Premier Products database, what kind of validation would you put in those fields? None of that's designated here. Use your best judgment on some of those. Field sizes, how big should the customer name field be? You can count the ones that are there and make it exactly fit Johnson's department store. I would use logic a little bit more than I would the actual size. In the data dictionary, it's very important that you list your tables in alphabetical order. It's not terrible here with 6 tables. Okay, I can find them without too much trouble. But at Lions, we're at 30 some and trying to find a table when you're scrolling up and down and I missed it. Nope, there, oh, there. If it's alphabetical, much easier. May work in teams of 2, but you don't have to. Part 2 is do it again for, and I don't know if this is a 10-pointer. I have to check. For some reason I want to say it's, that's right. 10-pointer, part 2 is basically the same thing except for 2 more databases. 2 more databases, so 20 points instead of 10. So that first one is a warm-up. My advice to you is wait till you get the evaluation of part 1 back before you tackle part 2, or at least before you turn it in, because you might make some mistakes and go, oh, I'm going to need to do that in Alexamara. Oh, I'm going to need to do that in Henry Books too. Once again, there's 2 databases here, so you should be giving me 2 ERDs and 2 data dictionaries. The data itself is just for samples, so in some of these it was too long, I couldn't get it on one screen at home, so I just chopped it off and said there's more records, but you get the idea. And this is a great example, by the way, of what a table in a relational database often looks like. What the heck is that? who is this and what the, and what book, who is that, what, geez. That's a real challenge if you're looking at the actual data. That's why there's front ends to these things, because looking in here and trying to figure out what the heck's going on is very difficult. This is a linking table. This is what linking tables look like. There's no human readable stuff there, unless you happen to know that author number 15 is James Patterson, and this is the Night Fury book or whatever. I don't forget all James Patterson's books. He's going to listen to my recording and be mad at me because I've read them all, but can't come up with one off the top of my head. Okay. Unless you know. And why would you? Because what does the 15 mean? Absolutely nothing. It's a unique identifier for Patterson or whoever it is. If I really wanted to know, I can come up here to the author table and say, who's number? Oh, it's J.K. Rowling. Okay, so I guess it would be Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows. If you really want to know, you can go and look it up. But when you're looking in the database, if you're looking at a linking table, they often look just like this. Very, very hard to read. That's an inventory table. That's not any better, is it? Those linking tables look like that. Yes, you can follow the links back and figure out who they are, but that's what SQL, which I hope to start next week, that's what SQL allows us to do. Is not have to go read this stuff, but write a query that says, give me the first name, last name, and the book title, and give me the publisher's name, not the ID number, and what state they live in, and which warehouse this is stored in. Sorry, mixing databases now. But I can put all that in one query, and I can get the English version of it instead of this stuff. And that's what you'll learn how to do next. So this is normal. It's another reason why I don't like my users looking inside the database. They go in here and go, what the heck is this? And they start taking all that. I've had them do this. They go in here and say, I don't want to see these. I want to see the author names. So they replace them. And I quit. I said, I hope you got a backup because you just trashed the database. And they did have a backup, so I didn't quit. But got lunch on it. So there's that one. Then there's Alexa Marina, a little bit smaller, but same concepts. So your job is to reverse engineer those, including a data dictionary. Let's set a date. What the heck? Design 1. We won't worry about 2 just yet, but let's set a date for Design 1 because Matt's got his book out already. Might as well give him something to write. Ten points. We've still got lecture on Thursday. You tell me. Really? It's the 17th of February? There's only 1 week of February left? Cool. Okay. That week seems a little premature, unless you want to do it like on Friday, have it due Friday at midnight before it messes up your weekend. Or I'm more likely to go to the next month and say it'll be due on the 3rd. That's a long time from now, though. That's a week and a half. If you're worried about forgetting this stuff, don't worry about that because there's at least one more ERD after these 2 coming. So you're all going 3rd is good? All right, 3rd it is. And we'll figure out the other one afterwards. This is probably the wrong class to talk about. That's not bad. Yesterday or today is assignment tracker due date. Some of you didn't listen to me when I said do this in pieces. And I hope the rest of you, even if you did, learn the lesson that you got to do these assignments in pieces. They'll make you crazy trying to do them all in one sitting. If you can do it, more power to you. If I don't, and I won't know because you'll get them in on time. But I've got some emails saying, I can't quite figure out, never mind.
It was due tomorrow. It's due today,
It's
right?
due today, tomorrow, whatever, yesterday, it doesn't matter. I extended it to today, but that doesn't give you a whole lot of help if you're not doing this as pieces. Try to remember, try to train yourself to set aside some time for programming because you're going to have an assignment due in programming logic every day in RDD. There's something out in the future. Work on it in phases. Set aside some time. Tuesday before class to sit down and do that next assignment that he just gave us and start working on it. That's my advice, but you all have other lives and you're all big boys and girls, so you know how to deal with it. And I apologize to those of you who don't need that lecture, but it's good to put it on the recording. All right. So what we were working on, any questions about the assignment? ERD and a data dictionary. So you should be sending me 2 files. Remember the data dictionary itself, the skeleton is on the website. It's probably on OneDrive. It's all over the place. I do not recommend using a existing like the student data dictionary and trying to change things. I'd have this open on the side, use it as a guide, but I don't recommend taking this, doing a save as, and try to change all the names. Better off to build it using the template that I showed you. I forgot to turn the recording back on. Good thing it was mostly review. Talked about how this was for the database developer because that's what we need to build the tables. The rest of this, for the most part, is for the programmer. 8 digits for a student ID. Has to be digits, has to be 8. We could key press that, right? So we don't accidentally put digits or characters in there. Don't even let the user type them. Set the max size to 8, but we still have to validate it to make sure it's 8 and not less. That's something that the GUI can't do. We can't force them to type in 8 without doing validation. That rule goes into the business class. These requireds, that goes into the business class. Tells the business programmer that don't let them give you an empty string for this one. It's required. And automatically capitalize it. Street and city and state, still text. Got into a nice discussion yesterday in my systems class about whether or not we should be capital or restricting names to just letters. No. Because what else could be in a first name? Let's go last name. What else could be in there? Hyphens, spaces, numbers, probably not. But by the time you start putting in all the letters that are legal, it's just, I got it. They looked at me a little cross-eyed and said, if that's what you want to do, try to validate those, go ahead. Because they said, well, if you put a space in, then couldn't they just have a last name of a space? And I go, yes. Couldn't they just have a last name of a dash? Yes. Spaces, 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 3 dashes, that could be your last name. Do you really want to get into this validation? My philosophy in my programs, and again, my programs are what a lot of this is based on, is no, I don't want to worry about it. You type whatever you want in the first name box, including digits. And the first time your name shows up is 123 Gall on an address label, somebody's going to go, what? 123 Gall? 6666 after the last name, right? That's really somebody's name. They'll go fix it. These are very visible. If they're wrong, we go fix them. Can you validate these? Yes, but it's very painful. Because spaces and dashes, I've seen them in first names. A lot? No. They exist. And if you allow a space, then you have to write more rules to say you can't have a first name that's just spaces. That validation can get very, very complex. I don't normally do it. So fields like street address, how do you validate one of those? Geez, now numbers are allowed. What isn't allowed in there? The new Apple happy face thingies? Okay, maybe not. But I'm not going there. Just do whatever you want. Let the user type whatever they want. And if it's wrong, somebody will recognize it and fix it. And I won't say that because it is so very difficult to analyze those, to make sure they're right. Street addresses, cities, I automatically capitalize them. That's all I do to them. These aren't even required. If I don't have that, I can at least put the student's name in and get their address later, and I could start signing them up for classes even before I have an address. Maybe the rule is, no, it's required, we got to have it, because if we can't bill them, we're not going to let them sign up. That's where the owners come in. So we start talking to them about those requirements. For the state, we said it's a T2. We're going to use state abbreviations, 2 letters, uppercase. We can do more validation than that. If we had the time, what I would more likely do is I have a states table. There's a limited list, right? A 50, that's not a big table. Throw in the geez, I am lost here today. What do we call Guam and all those? Those are our territories. Thank you. The territories, put those in there because we get a lot of people sending mail there. And we could even, since Canada's so close, throw in their province abbreviations, and it's still a relatively small table. I have one. But then it doesn't let you practice uppercase and two letters and making sure it's just the right size. This might be a lookup, but in my database right now, there's no states table. There could be. Probably should be. Trying to keep it as manageable here as I can. 5 digits and a zip code. Notice it's text. Phone numbers are 10. We talked about not putting dashes in and parentheses. Because my owners have changed their mind about format of phone numbers 3 times since I built the program. When it first came out, it was give us a default area code and put parentheses around that, and we want a dash. Then after a while, the default area code went away, but they still wanted parentheses and a dash. And now it's everything's dashes. They don't want parentheses anymore. They changed that. Doesn't matter to me. I go to my GUI and I change the way they're formatted. Doesn't matter because the data is stored as 10 digits that I can format any which way I want to. Email address 50. There is a standard email pattern. A pattern is we talked about regular expressions briefly. A pattern is some special symbols that describe what an email message looks like. It's a bunch of letters, maybe with some dots in them, followed by an @ followed by either com or edu, or nowadays there's so many of them, I don't think we can even list those anymore. But there is a pattern that we could steal. We could find it. If you Google it, you can find an email pattern. And using a regular expression, we could make sure it matches that pattern. But that's about all we could do. What a lot of websites are doing now is sending you just a little ping email saying, just verifying your email, everything cool. It's kind of annoying, but at least they know your email address is real. We're not going to go that far. All right, so that's one table. Is that as far as we got? I think so. What I like to do, and I don't have my ERD open here, so I probably should do that. What I like to do is the parent tables first. It's not a requirement, but if you do the parent table first, where's my student? There it is. If you do the parents, then you kind of know what's going on with the children. Because ultimately, we're going to link them together, right? And when we link them, then we know the types. In this database, in most databases, the types of the linking fields are integer. So the next table that I'm very likely to take a look at here, and student might not even have been the appropriate one. Did I miss a field? My student table's missing a field. How'd that happen? What's it missing? Well, maybe it isn't. Oh, it's not. Okay, that's why. I thought I needed the program in here, but it's in here. So the next table I could take a look at are programs. And those are where? There. Program code. Anybody know what our program codes look like? 6. 10-152-1. That's you guys. Software development. So it's a 6-digit text field. We don't do math with it. There's no default unless we want to sign everybody up for software development. But its validation is 6 digits, never less. It's already a primary key. The program names, these are getting kind of long. Information technology - software developer. Whew. I would recommend maybe 100. Remember from last time, my advice to you is if you're not sure, estimate low. Now, I could relatively easily go out and get a list of the existing programs from Midstate, count the longest one, and I usually round up to the nearest 5 or 10. Round up. I've been using 100. We do capitalize them. And that's about all we can do. Questions? Yeah.
For the format, you said that program code is like.
I'm sorry.
For the program code, it has like 2 dashes in that.
Yep.
Specify that.
I could. All right, but I'm afraid to here because it may seem like you want them to enter it that way, but I can type that one. I do this dash pound 1 2 3 dash pound. That's the one we're currently using. Remember, with phone numbers, I put them up here because that's what my user said they want. So whenever I have phone numbers in here, I don't have to designate the format because I set it up here. Date formats, I set it up once. I almost want to put these in my template because they're so common that they're at the top before there's even a table. What format for phone are you going to use? What format are you going to use for dates? Yeah.
That's for the GUI designer, right?
It's also for the GUI designer because when do we format phone numbers when we show them to users? Joni?
For the description, for primary key,
I wouldn't. That's what the red tells me is primary key. My primary keys are always listed first in my tables, and I still make them red and bold-faced. If that's not enough for you, you want to add primary key there, I'm not going to complain. Okay? Then the next table that is only apparent is the classes table. Here's classes. Class ID. We have class IDs too. Already, every one of our courses has a course number. This is 152-155 or something like that. I forget what RDD is. That's also a T6, and since the company already has them, there's no reason for us to go to an auto number field unless you're very concerned about those. If I decided to go to an auto number field, I would have to add the class number to this and then still have a class ID that uniquely numbers them. But these are unique. So I don't think there's a big need for making sure that we have for using an auto number field and having a regular key. If Midstate were to redesign their database today, I'd tell them forget those numbers. Why do you need the 150, because they're state code numbers. Oh, geez. Well, since they're unique, we might as well just stick with them. So that's my decision here. But there's no straight answer. Do I make an auto number field for every single table? When I do new ones, if you look at the ones I just redid, the answer was yes. If I build new databases myself, yeah, I like auto number fields. But if I'm building it for somebody else's system and they already have these unique values, maybe we work with them. Or we try to talk them out of them. These are, again, 6 digits. It's nothing less. And if we wanted to do the format, John's idea wasn't bad. And this could go in the description as well, but it's really just a format. That's what they look like. Class name, I happen to know because of my attendance program. Counts needs to know. It's a database. And so right now I'm up to 60. Anything that normally appears title case, you should be automatically capitalizing it for the user. They get used to that real fast. Course description. Many languages have a memo field that can be used for long text. So if I wanted to have some really long text here to describe a course, I could use a memo field. My systems implementation students have been doing some research, and in MySQL, they've discovered that memo fields are pretty inefficient because they're actually stored in a separate file. And they're linked to. It's almost like its own database, its own table of description, one field, and they're linked. And all that happens behind the scenes, and we don't have to worry about it, which is the good news. Think about how long these could be. Supposedly, the text field in MySQL, and this is the research my students have done, not mine, right, is about 2 billion. That's a lot of stuff. That's, I don't know if I've told this class, but a 400-page novel, it's about a megabyte. All the text in a 400-page novel is a megabyte. This is 2 gigabytes. I think 2,000 novels in one field. I don't think that's going to happen. It can handle it. Doesn't mean you should do it that way. They did more research and said, if you're going over 100, make it a memo. If you're under 100, 100-character description. And there was another one that said 200. Just for the back of your mind. Okay. If it's over 200, then make it a memo. Otherwise, leave it in here as a big text field. And the Lions Camp, that staff likes comments. They got comments all over the place. Comments about campers, comments about staff members, comments about medications. There's comments all over the place. And how big can those be? Be quite large. So since memo is probably the best idea here, we'll make it a memo. You can use just M if you wish. And you don't auto-capitalize that, and there is no way to validate that short of saying it's required, which it's not. So there's nothing I can do. They type whatever they want. Credits. Text. No. Now we're doing math, right? Because we use the credits to calculate GPA, to calculate how many credits you signed up for this semester so we know how much money to charge you. Credits is a numeric field. Really all you have to worry about here is integer or decimal. Ints? Decimals? Decimal? Who said decimal? Why?
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 Because it's going to be done with math with another decimal.
Well, now you're thinking C#. Stop that.
It's
No, I understand why you're saying it, but that's not an issue. You know, C# and its mixing types of doubles and decimals don't play well together. That's not an issue in most other languages. Why would it be a decimal? Anybody want to guess?
Well, I just know that when I sign up for classes, it says like 4.00
Right, so that's a good clue.
when we get it.
Does that mean there's a 4.25?
I don't know. Is there?
Is there? Anybody signed up?
Or it's-
Yes, there are. They're called CBTs, computer-based training courses. They're little mini classes that you can take that are half credits, third credits, all kinds of weird numbers based on the number of hours. So those are decimal. If we want to allow for them, we can. If we wanted to simplify, we could say integer. Let's allow for them. So it's going to be a decimal. I'll use a D. And now the other thing we have to designate is how big do we expect this to get and how many decimal places. Remember when we're defining text fields in C#, you just say string, right? You don't have to say how big it's going to be. You just say string. We say decimal and we get decimal. Here we have to designate the size of the text. We also have to designate the expected size of the decimal. And the way we designate this is by first figuring out the number of I would say the number of decimal places we want. So that's 2. Because we've got some that are 0.33. Got to count the decimal place itself. And then you also have to figure out what do I want on the left-hand side. And we don't have anything more than 2 digits. We don't have any 100 credit classes. So we add all those up. And this becomes a 5.2 or a 5,2, however you want to describe it. This says the entire field width is 5 with 2 after the decimal place. And I really ought to check my SQL notes to make sure I'm not lying. Because in SQL, when we designate these sizes, every language is a little different. Most languages, it's the entire field width when you're specifying the width, including the decimal places. So let me do just a quick jump here. You can go to the notes for SQL build and populate, that's assignment, which is the next unit. Here's the data types. Here's decimal. P designates the total number of digits. The point is not included. Now you know why I have notes. So back to this. Really all we need is a 4-2, right? Because we said 2 on the left, 2 on the right. That should cover it. The point is not included in MySQL. If you're building a database in Microsoft SQL, you might want to look that up real quick. Building an Access database, you might want to check that. Oracle database, check that. Here, 4.2 works just fine. Is there a default number of credits that most classes are? I'd say 3. Okay, but 3. Because most of our classes are 3 credits, right? This is an odd duck. You sign up for a class, you almost expect it to, actually this one's odd because it's 2. Programming logic is 4. There are classes, but the majority, I'd say, are 3. So that's a good place to start. Remember, the user's not stuck with this. They can change it. But if it's 3, they just tab right over it and go and leave it alone. Validation, I'd say something like between 0.33 and I think I've seen a 10 credit class. Some nursing classes, they just lump a bunch of stuff together and make it a big 10 credit class. Talk about tough on your GPA when you get a C in that one. But that's what I'm looking for. That's the point here, is what kind of things do you put in the validation? Usually a range for numbers. What's the acceptable range? And usually that includes a min and a max. Now in the programming class, I said that if you put a numeric field in there and you set its min value at 0, or you use key press and you don't accept a minus sign, that you don't have to check for that. But the business class doesn't know that. So most numbers have a range value that they're checking. If you don't know the minimum range, ask. If you don't know the maximum range, maybe you leave it off. But normally you can estimate something. Questions? Okay. So we did that. What else we got that's just apparent? Probably the instructor. Instructor ID, I have the same IDs that you guys have. So now it's time to steal some stuff. Here's a nice thing about tables. I want to be consistent. Why would an instructor's name have a different size limits than a student name? Probably don't. Just because we've never run into it doesn't mean it shouldn't have the same type of capabilities. So I'm going to copy that down here to instructors, and I can paste it right in here, and hopefully it'll work right. Cool. Office phone, we know that's a T10, and it has to be 10 digits. I could copy that too, right? Because that's probably up there under student. Email address, we said T50. Go ahead.
Would it be a T10? Because most office phones have extensions.
They all have the good point. It's not an extension, it's just a 7-digit phone number because we all have the same area code. It's an office phone. Okay, it's not just an extension. In Midstate here, it's not just an extension. My office phone has extension 3121, but it's really 42231 or 34221, whatever it is. All right. But the area codes are all the same, so we could definitely leave it off here. Unless I'm posting this on a website someplace, but even then, I wouldn't store it. If I was posting my phone number on my website, I would concatenate a 715 to whatever my phone number is in the database because the database doesn't store the area code. If everybody's area code's the same, why would I store it? Good. And email, once upon a time up here, we said we have the standard email pattern if we're going to use it there. You can use it down here. And a website could be quite long, right? I might want to, instead of sending them to volkergall.com/mstc, I might want to send them to /mstc/courses. So it can be long. Let's start, I don't know what I would call maybe the low end at 100. There is also a standard URL pattern. Anybody know what URL means? Say no. You don't have to tell me, but just say no if you don't know what it means. Okay, that's a web address, right? There's a standard pattern. It has to have, I think, at least 3 pieces parts. And there could be slashes, and there could be other things, but there's some things it doesn't have, and there's this standard pattern that somebody's worked up to say, this is what it looks like. And we could steal that. That's another one of those, I let them type whatever they want. And if you type it wrong and I click on it, it doesn't go anywhere, I'll complain to somebody. There's limits to what we could do. You could even type it right, and you could still click on it. It might go somewhere in the middle of nowhere. Because if you go to volkergall/msct, it's not going anywhere. But it's still a valid address. It's just not going anywhere. All right, those are our parent tables. Questions? Need a data type. Notice all the texts, not uncommon at all. There's text all over the place. And then for each field, figure out its maximum size. Estimate low. If it normally appears title case, auto cap it. Don't do that to websites and email addresses. You can't, no, it's not necessarily the case. And some of those email addresses are lowercase and they're case sensitive, which is really annoying. If they're text digits only, like phone numbers, those are pretty common. I put those in there. And let's see what other new things we have. So now the next thing I'm going to look for is a table that is a parent sometimes, like sections. That is a parent sometimes, but a child in other cases. And then finally, I will do the ones that are children only. So the sections table is next. There it is. There we go. Section ID. What's your section ID look like? It's a 5-digit number. But I'm going to recommend to you, in this case, that we not use it. Because I know, and this happens way too frequently, that we recycle all those numbers every year. In the fall, they start with 6. In the spring, they start with 2. In the summer, they start with 4. Other than that, they're completely recyclable. I don't know what the section number for this class is. I could look it up, but I'll give you odds. If I looked last year, there's a different class, could be a completely different department, doesn't matter, has the same ID number for the section. So this section ID that Midstate has isn't going to work very well. So what I'm going to add, remember in my document, I have a control with the numeric plus sign, adds a row underneath where you are. That's listed up there in the template someplace. Control numeric plus sign. I'm going to add a section number. And no, it's not a key. That is a 5-digit number. We don't do math with it. So it's text. There's no default, but it is 5 digits. This ID number now becomes an auto number field. It's our first one here. I've got 80 gazillion sections all the way back from the beginning of time. I'm going to assign each one its own unique number. Here's how I do auto numbers. Almost all databases use int as the type. Its default is auto. It's going to be auto numbered. That's what an auto number field looks like to me. I don't need to validate it. Don't need to do anything with it. And so now every time I create a new section of RDD for next semester, Just going to give me the next section number 111,223. Who cares, whatever the number is. But an integer will handle it in most cases. Questions about auto numbers? Okay. Class ID, notice the little link is already on there. When we built this table, we said that's a linking field. And normally I put linking field second, but I snuck my section number in there. I can move them around. There are ways to move rows, but I'm just going to leave them. It's not important where it sits. It really isn't. The only reason I keep my linking fields near the top is so I can see all the lightning bolts real quick. But I can see the lightning bolt. That tells me that this is a key in another table. This is why I built the class table first. I can now steal its type and anything else that it has. So I'll go find, there it is. Here's my class ID. T6. Well, why didn't you copy this stuff? If it's a linking field, it's going to be a lookup. I'm not going to ask the user to type in. If I ask you what this course number is, you'd have to rewind the recording to find out what it is, right? Most of you don't remember. I'm not going to ask them to enter the 6-digit number when they sign up for a section. I'm going to let them pick. What class do you want? Relational database development. 10 o'clock or whatever. I'm not going to show them the number. I'm going to show them that lookup. So this is a lookup. So the validation, that's where this, I believe, belongs, is a lookup. Do I have a shortcut key for lookup, or is this the one I got to cut and paste? I got to cut and paste it. It's a little icon that I found. It looks like a little combo box. Unfortunately, it's a picture, so there's no way that I can cut it and paste it and put it into a macro, because the picture doesn't go in a macro. So this one I put on the clipboard and just leave it there. And then for anything that's a lookup, anything that's got the lightning bolt is probably going to be a lookup. Somebody last year said, well, if everything that's a lookup is a lightning bolt, then why do we have to put that little lookup thing in there? I'm sorry, that's not true. What I just said is not true. Everything that's a lookup is not a lightning bolt. Anything that's a lightning bolt is a lookup. Because if it's a lightning bolt, it's a foreign key. And we saw what those linking tables look like. Remember the rote table? With just a bunch of numbers in it that don't mean anything? I'm not going to show my users, my human users, those numbers because they don't mean anything. I'm going to translate them into what they mean. Author number 15 is J.K. Rowling. We are going to take care of that on the GUI side so they never have to see the numbers. However, I can have other fields that are lookups. Even though they're not linking fields, they can still be lookups. Okay, credits earned. What should I do here? Steal the credits current. Because it's going to have the same rules, right? Now I'm going to put a little note out here for the first time. When I create a new section of RDD, I'm going to copy the current credits from TBL classes. Matter of fact, I'm not even going to put this in here. I'm just going to put a star in there and put the little star in the front here that said, for the default, copy it from here. When you create, imagine we're writing a program and the user says, I want to create a new section. As soon as they pick RDD, I can go into the database and say, what's RDD worth today? Because that's what this new section is going to be worth. This one over time can change. This one over time will never change. Because this is how much it was worth when you took it in that semester. So that's a little tricky. I think I pasted that in the wrong spot, didn't I? That's a technique I've used. If I have current and assigned, there's prices in one of those databases somewhere that I saw where there's the offered price and the a quoted price and the normal price. Maybe a salesperson has the authority to say, if you buy 100 of them, I'll give you a discount. By default, we put in the normal price, but you can still change it. By default, we put in the number of credits. I don't expect that one really to change. Section time. Question here is, do we want a date time or do we want to just text? We're going to do math with the times. Probably not, though. If I take the start, this is the time of day that it starts. I don't know how many hours it lasts. You don't care how many hours it lasts most of the time. You just want to know when it starts. Now, there probably ought to be a start time and an end time. Let's not get crazy here. So this is a time. I'm not going to be doing any math with it, so I might make it text. That would be 8:00 space AM. That was about 7. That'd be max. They could type 7 p.m. and be done with it. That's what they want. This one's a tricky one. You have to ask an owner, and I don't have the answer right now. So let's go with T7. That's the max. Default, is there a time of day when our classes usually no. Validation and format has to be between 8 a.m. and 7 p.m. because nothing starts between those. And if I'm going to say between, I can't use text. I can't use text because 1 p.m. alphabet, if I'm doing between, we saw what happens when we try to alphabetize numbers. It makes a mess. It's even worse with times. So I have some validation. We don't have any classes that start before 8. We don't have any that start after 7. And out here, since I'm running out of room, I could say my preferred format for this is hours, minutes, and then AM or PM. I have a date format up above. If I had a lot of times in this program, I could put a time format up above too and say for all these times, here's how we want them to look. And this should be a little h because that normally means a 12-hour clock, or capital H means a 24-hour clock. Yep.
You had it as T7 before. Why did you change it to time?
Because I cannot, with a T7, I cannot see if it's between these limits.
Oh.
Can't do that comparison. John?
Since you have also an ending time in the validation.
Do I? I don't have an ending time.
Well, like for the T7, you have like the start time of the class.
Yeah.
When it gets done. For your validation, does that just go to start time? Or what about like when it gets done after 7?
You're saying if I had an end time, right?
Right.
What I could do, what I would normally do if I have a start and an end time is at least make sure that the end time is after the start time. But other than that, it's kind of tough because credits does not necessarily apply to hours. Our 4-credit class is 5 hours of class time. But if you're taking written comm, 3-credit class is 3 hours of class time. And so there's no good way, there's no translation there. Unless we added more fields. And again, that's not the point here. What kind of stuff do you put in your data dictionary? Section days, what I want to keep track of here, and here comes Karen, she's going to tell me I have a multi-value field again. What days of the week does this class meet? And I think I talked about it before, actually, that this is a T, in my case, 5. There are some classes, we don't do it very often anymore, that meet 5 days a week. Default, no default. Validation, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, has to be one of those characters. Doesn't have to be all of them, but it has to be one or any combination of those characters. And I might auto cap. And this is one where I might consider just doing a lookup. And by the way, if you're doing a lookup, why do we need to capitalize it? Probably don't. So what I'm looking for there is a temporary combo box that says Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. And if it's a list box, we can multi-select, right? And then it gets sent to the business class, and the business class choose on it. So this is an example where you might do a lookup, even though it's not a foreign key. Semester, that's another challenging one. How do we deal with it? Do we say fall 2014, or do we say 14 or 2014 fall? F14. The problem with F's and S's is we run in trouble with springs and summers. And if we ever want to alphabetize them, if we ever want to have them in numeric order so that the spring comes before the fall, it doesn't work. And mid-state solution is a T4 field. We are currently in semester 1152. Yes. What? Don't ask. The 1 in the beginning is useless. The 15, I said 1152. It's a 1, 1, 5. 15 is the current year. 2 is spring. 4 is summer. 6 is fall. And so we can then sort by that semester code. That's what gets stored in the database. It's not what I show my users. My users see fall 2015, followed by summer 2015, followed by spring 2015. I do the translation for them in code. But we're not talking about code, we're talking about the database. So here, we might want to say, translate this to English. I'm talking to the programmer. And by the way, that's really good for a class to do, right? So here's my section class. One of the things I want to ask the section is, what's the English version of the semester? Because it's mathematically easy to calculate, relatively. So I could write a method that sends that back. So you don't have to look at the ugly one. But the database stores the ugly version. The business class translates the 1152 into spring of 2015. Okay, so there was our first link. Who's next? Everybody else is many to many. So now the order doesn't matter too much. So I'm just going to go to the top and work my way down. Program enrollments. We've already transferred in the primary key in the linking field because this is a many-to-many resolution table. Those are both the linking fields and the keys. If they are linking fields, we need to know what type is the program code. Program code is a T6. They have to match. The types have to match. It's another reason that auto number fields are really cool. You just put int in there. Student ID is a T8. Shouldn't I say in here they have to be digits, etc.? No, because we are doing a lookup. If I'm doing an enrollment of Lyle in this class, I'm not going to be asking what's Lyle's ID number in the database and what's the course code number. I'm not asking that. Or programs, sorry. I'm not asking that. You do lookups for both of these. So imagine a combo box. Pick your student, type a couple of names, S-P-I-N-D, oops, Spindler got him, there he is. Here's a list of programs, IT, software developer, click done. Behind the scenes, the program says, turn that into student 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, program code 1152-10, or whatever it is. All that happens behind the scenes. That's what I'm telling the GUI programmer here, is I want that to happen behind the scenes. It's almost a given, it's just a reminder. There's no other validation I need to do. We cannot enroll somebody in a program if the program doesn't exist. We cannot enroll somebody if the somebody doesn't exist. All the rest of it happens pretty much automatically. Can imagine what the rest of these are going to look like. Here's enrollments. Okay, that's a little bit different. Who's the student ID? That's a T8. Which section? Oh, wait a minute. Section. We made it. Section ID is an auto number. Here's a very common mistake. That's not right. Auto number means whenever I create a brand new record, automatically put a new number in here. When I create a new enrollment number, I want to put some new number. No. I want the ID of this section. It's not auto number here. It's only auto number where it's created, not where we're pulling it from. So it's created in this table. That's where it's auto number. Where it's the primary key only, it's auto number. If it's a link, it's not auto number. We do lookups. Programmer's going to have to figure out somehow who the student lookup again. That's not a problem. SPIND. Oh, there's Spindler grabbing. Which section is he enrolling in? Now, how are we going to deal with that? Lots of different ways to do it. Easy answer is I have another combo box of here's all the courses that are being offered in this semester. We might have to ask what semester. There's no semester in here. No. But my form might have a combo box that said I'm looking for semester 1154 because I'm signing him up for the summer. We only give a list in our combo box of the courses that are in the semester that are selected. Happens all the time. Even though it's not even on this form, on this table, data from multiple forms or multiple tables often show up on one form. And sometimes stuff that isn't even in another table comes in here, like the semester. That's just a field. There's no semester table. Could be. We don't have a semester table, but even when we're asking for enrollments, we're probably going to ask, what semester do you want to sign up for? Why would I be signing Lyle up for a 1999 section? I wouldn't be. Doesn't mean I don't want to keep track of the fact that he was in that class. In the future, I might want to look back. Grades. What type? Louder.
Decimal.
Decimal. What grade did you get in the other classes? What grade did you get in programming logic beginning? That's a decimal? 4. Really? Is that the grade you got?
Programming logic.
Yeah. No. You got an A. That's what we store. That's what we show. We don't show the points. No, we can reverse the logic and take an A and turn it into whatever point value it is. We can have a separate grade table that does that. Or since it's constant here at Midstate, we don't have to. So back to grades. A is the grade he earned. What type? Text size? 2. Default. Should I make it A? Can. That means that a third of the time, a tenth of the time, I don't know. I don't have to put anything in. I think I'll leave it blank. What kind of validation? It's a fixed list, right? We'll make a lookup. We'll make a combo box. We'll hard code A minus, B plus, B minus, and just pick. Do I need a whole separate table for that? The purist would say, oh, absolutely, because what happens if you want to add a new grade? If I want to add a new grade, I'll go into that combo box and I'll add it, because it doesn't happen hardly at all. I've been here 23 years. The grade system has not changed. Is it worth a table? Maybe. We're getting into big arguments in systems right now, systems implementation, about some of the tables that they've suggested that I put in there. I was a little uncomfortable with them, but they've been through systems analysis and design with Jason Strike, who's a heck of a lot smarter about that stuff than I am, so I said, okay, we'll go with it. It's now starting to cause us problems. Because we designed a database for something that's huge, and it's not. There are maybe 5,000 campers in that database. That's not huge. And our program is not set up to handle small now, so we've got to think about that a little bit. Sometimes you give up third normal for realism. And we are in a way giving up third normal because it is possible for us to have redundant data in the database, but that was the problem. We did it third normal and it's still possible to have redundant data in there. So I'm sure you got the idea by now. This is not easy. And there's no right answer. When it fails, maybe you fix it. Sometimes fixing it isn't worth it. Sometimes we get a couple of pieces of redundant data over 5 million. Am I going to be concerned about that? Maybe. If I have a couple over 5 million, that's not so bad. If I have a couple 100,000 over 5 million, now I got an issue. It's not easy. And then my challenge is to bring it down to a level where I can actually manipulate it in class and get done in class period. Here we are, section assignments. Who's the instructor? That's a T8. And it's a lookup. Section ID is an integer. That is a lookup. If they're lookups, you don't need any other validation. So that lookup symbol to me means not only is it a lookup, but you must pick from the list. Yeah, we're done for, well, we still got 10 minutes. So if you can get this far on your database design assignment number 1, sometime soon, if you're not procrastinating until the last day, last minute, if you can get this far, that's great. And if you put your heads together, you're more likely to figure out a good answer. And so I encourage you to do that. But there's one more step. Logical keys. Logical keys, if I remember right, are Control D. Yep, Control D for check for duplicates. The logical key is the field or fields that we check to ensure there are no duplicates. The big reason for this is like the sections table where the ID is an auto number field. There will never be a duplicate value in that field. The database ensures it because the database generates that value. So how could I have duplicates? Easy. Somebody could enter the same section twice. Maybe Bonnie does it, and then because Bonnie didn't tell Diane, Diane does it. Now that same section is in my database twice. That's not good. Perfectly legal because they have 2 different section ID numbers, so it's perfectly legal, but they're in the database twice. And now Lyle's trying to sign up for RDD at 11 o'clock, and there's 2 of them. He's going, which one do I want? Oh, it doesn't matter. They both start at the same time. Like, heck, then I come in and they give me the roster for the first one. He signed up for the second one. Going, what are you doing in here? So we need some way, and this is a GUI responsibility, and it's critical in tables that are ID, auto number field dependent, like those ones I just gave you. It is critical that you think about it and tell the GUI programmer, do not allow duplicates here. There is an alternative. Allow duplicates here, but only with user authorization. In other words, I already have a Lyle Spindler in my database. Are you sure you want to add another one? And usually when that question comes up, I give more details. I have a Lyle Spindler who's at this address with this phone number. Are you sure you want to add another one? And then I go, geez, he's in there already. I guess not. I already have an enrollment for Lyle and RDD at 11 o'clock on Tuesdays and Thursdays. You sure you want to add him again? That's not an appropriate question, is it? I could have 2 Lyle Spindlers in my database. The user might say, yes, this is a different one. He's got a different address, different phone number. Does that mean it's not him? Maybe he moved and got a new phone at the same time. Witness protection, right? Yeah. Well, you're 2 different people. the thing we ran into in the systems class is what they were struggling with is what happens if I put the same person into my database twice with 2 different phone numbers, which is how we were thinking we were going to tell them apart. It's the same person, 2 different phone numbers. There was no way for us to check and see, is this the same person? The only way we could do that is say, I already have a Lyle Spindler with this phone number in the database. Have you ever had that phone number before? Oh yeah, I give up that phone and here's my new phone number. That's hard to do if Lyle's not in the room. And that's what they ran into. So I've been mentioning all along that this logical key thing is one of the hardest things we're going to do in the data dictionary. Can be done, but it's hard. Logical keys are the fields where we will not allow duplicates, or they are the fields where we will only allow duplicates with user authorization. We're bringing the human into the loop, even though they could be stupid, and say, are you sure? And if they say yes, then we go, okay, what's in? But I want to know. I want to know which fields I need to look at. So for sections, I have a section ID. What makes for a duplicate section? When the section number is duplicated? I've already said no, that's not the case, because next semester or next year we will recycle this 21345 number that's been assigned to the section. We're going to recycle that. So that's not enough. Class ID. Class ID is RDD. There should be lots of sections of that. Class ID with the section number. Maybe we could put the 2 together. No, because next year this RDD class could be given the same section number again. Doesn't usually happen, but it could. See why this is hard? My gut feel right now is this. Thou shalt not have the same section number in the same semester. Period. Those 2 in combination can never be duplicated. So if this is fall 2015 or spring, okay, fall 2015, section number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, there better not be 2 of them. No. No. That's my duplicate check. Wait a minute, Diane, why are you entering a fall 2015 section number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5? It's already in the database. And she'll go, oh, somebody else must have done it. And off she goes. Doesn't enter it. Assume it's already there. In this case, the answer is no. It's no questions asked. It's no. We're not doing it. This section is already in this semester. We're not allowing that duplicate. Hopefully, Diane would say, really? It's already in there? For which class? RDD? Yeah, that's right. How many credits? 2? Yeah. Section time? 11? Yeah. Days? Tuesday, Thursday? Yeah, I guess it's in there already. Not easy. Auto, you can write this down if you want. Somewhere I have rules for logical keys. It is never an auto number field. Never. That's the primary reason they exist, is because of those stupid auto number fields that are so handy, that allow us to enter any data we want and not complain. Auto number fields are never logical keys. If it is a linking table, it is probably the primary keys. I will never have the same student enrolled in this section twice. Never. If it is a linking table, it is probably, and I say probably, there has been an exception once, but it works 99% of the time. It is probably the linking keys. Now, many of you, when you built your practice ERDs, assigned ID numbers to a passenger ticket. A ticket is me signed up for a trip, right? If you assign an ID to the ticket, then you don't have these linking keys. You have your auto number field. You can't use the auto number field, but you could probably find these two links. I'm hesitant, and I think I can rephrase it this way. If it's a linking table, the linking fields are probably your duplicate, your logical keys. So let's write a couple of these down. I'll run out of time. Okay, number one, it is never for logical keys. Never an auto number field. Two, if it's a linking table, it's probably the linking fields. Those are the ones with the lightning bolts. Probably. Think about it. Okay. Should I ever have a duplicate student ID, section ID? That's this room right now with two in there twice. No. Still gotta think about it. But that's probably enough. Let's do one more and we'll call it good. This will give you an idea. We'll finish more of these later. Oh, students. How do I know if you are already in the database? First of all, my student ID is not auto numbered. So my program should definitely check that. So there's another rule. If the primary key could be two parts, but probably not. If the primary key is not auto numbered, it is because it can't be duplicate, is a logical key as well. But it may not be the only one. We can have multiple logical keys. Ouch. Yep. And here's a challenge. This one's hard. How do I assure that the same student is not in my database twice? Last name? Last name, first name? Probably not. Didn't Lyle say that your dad's name is Lyle Spindler? So Lyle's dad finds out class is here, really cool, he signs up. How can you tell them apart? Well, you're not looking at them, you're looking at their data. Isaac?
Well, I was gonna say what Val just said.
Well, yeah, I didn't hear him, so you get to win.
Him?
No. No, how do you tell them apart?
Email address.
Email address. What's the problem with that? Remember the rules for keys? Primary keys? That's a good idea. It is, except there's one problem. One of the rules for primary keys is they can't be blank. Logical keys, if they're blank, that causes problems. Because not everybody has an email address. Hard to believe. Well, at Midstate they do. Oh, wait. You get an email address because you get put into the database as a student. That's why you get an email address. What I'm trying to avoid is putting you in there twice.
You can't just check if the student ID is already in there.
Student ID is close enough, but if Lyle is gone for 5-6 years and he comes back, they're not going to remember him at the front desk. And he said, "Hi," and he fills out the new student form. And they say, "Oh, new student, cool, we love new students. Put them in the database, and now I got 2 Lyle Spindlers." In the interest of time, here's what I would do. And I don't have a way to check this. Right. So I might put a little star on it. I don't have a key for this. The logical key with a star means check it with the user. Get the human involved. Lyle Spindler's a student. Really? And what I might pop up on the screen is you already have in the database a Lyle Spindler at this address with this phone number, with this email. Give as much information as I can. Okay. There's already one in the database. Do you really want to add another one? And hopefully the user would go, whoa, I don't know. Let me call him. Let me email him. Say, have you ever been registered at Midstate before? And if I'm emailing him on that other email address, or maybe he gave me a different one coming in, that still doesn't mean it's not the same person. Catching duplicate data is very difficult. We want to do the best we can. What the star means to me is get the human involved. That's my code here. Because there's really no good way for us here. Not everybody has a phone, that's pretty rare. But the problem with phones is he might live at home with his dad, Lyle, and now they both have the same phone number, the same landline number. Less and less an issue. I was coming out of Buffalo Wild Wings the other night, and there's these little 4- and 5-year-olds who can't see where they're going because they're on their iPhones. They were 4 and 5, I swear, and they were walking and playing some game as they were going. So they got their own phones. Maybe someday in the near future you can use phone. But phone numbers still change. Remember, that's not real good for primary keys either, right? But we're not talking about primary keys, we're talking about logical keys. And I could say, I already have a Lyle Spindler in my email address, or a Lyle Spindler in my database with this phone number. And most people would say, oh, that was me, that's my old phone. I'm already in your database, here's my new phone number, change it. That's assuming the person's standing right there in front of you. If they're not standing in front of you, now the human is involved, and they're gonna have to be the detective and say, is this a different Lyle Spindler or a new one? Or the same one. It's not easy. We still have to put some of the onus on the student, or on the user. Now we could add to this the phone number and say, I will never have 2 students, same name, same phone number. I'm not doing it. Or email address. But Midstate does a lousy job of collecting your non-Midstate email addresses. So a lot of those are blank. And so now I have 2 Lyle Spindlers who don't have non-Midstate email addresses, but I can still ask the human.
Don't they use social security number?
We don't. Anybody ever ask you for your social security number here, you might want to question them.
I thought for students they have to.
Pardon me?
Financial aid. I thought for students.
Oh, yeah, you're right, now that you mention it. Because we ask you 7 personal questions to make sure it's really you when you're creating your MyMSTC account. And that's got social security number in it. That's really, I forgot that I cringe at that every time I see it. Matt?
When I was gonna say when I changed my password over the weekend, they asked for me my last 4 of my social.
Last 4, that's different. So we could do last 4 here. Is it appropriate? Here it is. In Lions, it's not. If I want to tell 2 guardians apart, I'm not asking them their social security number, and I'm not asking them their last 4. Social security numbers are not part of their database at all. So I don't have it. If we put it in here, with students, we have it, right? Because we need to. For your financial aid, we have your social security number. That doesn't mean I need to pop it up, but the last 4 is not bad. I already have a Lyle Spindler in the database, last 4 social security number 1234. Is that you? And he could go, no, that's not me. With what I have here, I don't have it. Now, running along, but your questions are good. Occasionally, I have added fields to a table just because I can't find a logical key. There's no good logical key. If at all possible, I want to leave the human out of the loop. If at all possible, I want the program to say, no, it's duplicate. With names, people, it's tough. It really is. To leave the human out of the loop, the user. But that last 4 isn't bad. Assuming I have if I have the last 4, I have a social security number. And I'm adding a new student. And I put in Lyle Spindler, the program goes, warning. Oh, social security number is different. Never mind. In this one, I don't have it, right? Hernandez says avoid it, but we can't. We're a mid-state, we're a technical college, we gotta have it.
So how did you do it for your program?
For Lions Camp, we're still working on it.
I think for Lions Camp, don't all the kids have forward cards?
Kids, yes, but our problem is people.
Guardian.
My students created a persons table so that any person goes into the persons table and we store their email address and that's it. First name, middle name, last name, persons.
But if they're getting paid, it's not.
But because what they were afraid of, their normal form, what they were afraid of is a person who is a guardian for one person and an emergency contact for a different camper, because that's my cousin or whatever. And we don't want that same person in the database twice. Man, are we having trouble figuring that out. Because a person is so generic, we don't have enough information about a person because we're not collecting social security numbers. If they don't have an email, we got a problem. And as it turns out, for emergency contacts, we don't even ask for email. We don't care. If it's an emergency, we're not going to email you. All we want is your phone number. So now they're going phone number. And that's where somebody said, he enters a phone number for Voker that is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, or 7. And then a little later, somebody else enters Voker again with a different phone number. John Smith with a different phone number. Because my phone number changed, now the person's in there twice with 2 phone numbers. Hopefully for only a little while. Till somebody recognizes that I keep getting mail for my own phone. You know, I get double mail from Lions Camp. What typically happens on an emergency phone number like that, we call it, no longer works. That record goes away. And if we're lucky, we see there's another John Smith who's supposed to be the emergency guy. Now, what we're having trouble is finding the duplicates there. Because the phone number, I might enter it, oh, that's a different phone number. It must be a different person. The alternative is to get the human involved. But if you got a lot of John Smiths, you get pestered a lot. We already have 17 John Smiths in the database with these phone numbers. Any of those look familiar? Maybe. So not only are they hard to figure out, sometimes they're hard to track down. I would say here, get the human involved. I might add one more. Just because the name's the same doesn't matter, but if the phone number's the same, then still ask. Or if the phone number's the same, no way. That's not going to be 2 people. But even then, I might ask if it could be Lyle and Dad living in the same place. And the program would go, no. What they do at Lions Camp is they stick an extra space at the end of the name so that one Lyle is different than the other because there's a space. Then my stupid programmers, excellent programmers, chop off any excess spaces just so they don't store them in the database. They'll put a junior on one of them. They'll do something to the last name to make them different. For the very few times it happens. Third normal form? No. Solves the problem? Yes. So that's the challenge of logical keys. I'm going to ask you to do them for your database design assignments. I'm going to ask you to do them the best you can, but I'm not going to be as harsh as I've been in the past. We might just have a session where we talk about them and come up with the best plan for them. That's a challenge. Next question is, do I need to do more of these? Or have we seen everything? I think you've seen just about everything you're going to see here. When you do your Premier products, see a bunch of text, going to be uppercase. Some things are going to be lookups. I think you've seen everything. I got to create a new solution anyway, so I'll create a new data dictionary myself and see if there's something missing. If there is, I will give a brief lecture on it on Thursday. Otherwise, Thursday is a lab for you to work on those data dictionary assignments and whatever else is updates on your practice ERDs and so on. Okay? Sorry to keep you late.